On today's show, we are once again going to tackle the deep, deep problems of subwoofers. Yeah, I know, we talk a lot about it, but hey, you know what? I'm answering customer questions, and customers have questions about subwoofers, and it's amazing to me how few people really get the importance of a subwoofer. And look, I don't make subwoofers. We eventually are going to make loudspeakers, and those loudspeakers, by necessity, will have subwoofers built into them because that's the right thing to do when you're making a loudspeaker that is purported to be full range. But subwoofers are the key to having a very musical, realistic system. Anyway, I'm not going to start preaching about that again. Well, maybe. Jeff in Des Moines, Iowa writes, "Hey Paul, I have recently bought a subwoofer and am now a big fan. Thank you for the suggestion." You are welcome. "It really does add a new dimension to the soundstage, as you said it would." Good. "The problem I'm having, if you can call it a problem, is adjusting the crossover frequency and volume with each recording. Is there a solution to that? Thank you. Jeff Waterman in Des Moines, Iowa." Well, first off, Jeff, thank you for going out and picking up a sub. You don't want to be changing that crossover frequency for every track of music. So let me tell you how I adjust a subwoofer. And a couple of days ago, we had asked Paul about how to set up the subwoofer in the first place, and there was a good trick that I explained how to set it up in the first place. But I'm going to imagine that you've already seen that, you've set it up properly, you don't have a whole lot of bumps and dips and areas of frequency anomaly within the room, and that your problem is just one of setup. So you set it up on one track of music and it sounds pretty damn good. You play the next one and you hear the sub, or maybe there's not enough bass on that. That's a problem that's very typical, and you can't just be changing it for every single record. As you can see, I mean, you could get a remote control and you could do it with different settings, but that's neither practical nor correct to be doing. So what I do when I'm setting up a subwoofer is go through Paul's dozen or so tracks of music that I average the subwoofer response to work well with all of those. And remembering Paul's rule, we do not want to have attention paid to our subwoofers, right? Subwoofers need to be invisible. We need to have their frequency cut off low enough and their volume at the appropriate level so that bass sounds like it's coming from the main speakers and not from the subwoofer. The moment that subwoofer draws attention to itself, you screwed up. You didn't do it right. And that's okay. I'm not being judgmental or anything else. It just be a fact. So here's what I do. I've published this a number of times, Paul's dozen. I think I've done it. If you go to Paul's post, psaudio.com, go to Paul's post, you can just search for it. You'll find Paul's hit list or whatever it is I have. And it's a collection of music that is inclusive of a number of different kinds of music that aren't necessarily bass heavy, but depend on the subwoofer for realism. One of the tracks is Boz Scaggs, Thanks to You. That's one it's a little hard to find, but I use that one kind of to set the actual level, and here's why. There's an electric piano, if you will, that's doing the bass line on that. And as Boz is singing, the keyboardist, I don't remember his name, is going down in frequency, and boom, 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 boom. And there's one note, the very lowest note that he hits, that I swear to God, on every system I listen to, it's gone. You can hear him going down, and you know there's something there, but you don't hear it. It's gone. It just won't, gone. So on a setup on a well set up system like the IRS 5s or anything with a decent subwoofer, that note just boom, 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 boom. And you hear that note as it was intended, obviously, by the keyboard player. And so I kind of start out there. I get it set so that note is even. That's a real easy test. And once that's set, the next thing I do is I go to something with an acoustic bass. Rob Wasserman, on his, oh gosh, I can't think of the name of his album, Brian Wood, any of those you can see on my list over there. And these are acoustic stand-up bass. Now here, you want to make sure that the bass isn't set too high in frequency and too high in volume, so that as the player is going down hitting those strings, that you don't all of a sudden get drawn towards the position of the subwoofer. It should sound very natural and just like the player was there in the room going down, and it's all coming from the main speaker. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all a dozen, but you get the idea. I do classical, I'll do ones that I know always roll off, and I get all of that as even and as smooth as I can, and then call it good. Because at that point, you've got as full range of loudspeaker as you can have, and any anomaly for that is in the recording. And that's just the way those recordings are, and I wouldn't bother tweaking for each one. Hope that answers your question. We'll talk tomorrow. Thanks. Bye-bye.